3, 2, 1, action. Episode 9, Barn Talk. On the road, first away game for the guys, for the fellas. Here with the one, the only NEB Scott P. and Northeast Baseball pitching coordinator, John Hops DeRouin. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, that's good. That's perfect.
DeRouin or DeRouin?
DeRouin.
DeRouin?
A lot of people get that wrong.
DeRouin.
Well, I think most people probably just call you Hops pitching.
Yeah, that's
probably
kind of what I go by now.
That's how I learned who you were.
Yeah.
So we're here at Northeastern versus Holy Cross. Beautiful day. Enjoying some baseball. Have some alums playing. So thought we'd take the show on the road today. John, how are you?
Doing good. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Great to be here.
First time,
Great to
long
be here.
time.
First time.
Yeah.
First
Beautiful
time,
facility
First time
here.
on the Barn Talk.
Beautiful facility here at Northeast.
Yeah,
Great.
you can see, I mean, red turf, beautiful
Great little
netting,
setup.
new turf.
There's a little
Nick
college
Wang,
baseball.
heck
Don't
of a
try to
play.
bunt on.
Nick
Don't
Wang.
try to bunt on Nick Wang.
You know,
He's a black
bat's not
hole.
here today, but defensively, the guy is an absolute weapon.
Yeah, that's
He's
a
a
black
weapon.
hole over
Yeah,
there, as
he's
they
a
say.
weapon.
Automatic out.
So, John, 21 years old, 22 years old, 22 years old. So 22 years old, have already built up, a lot of quality arms who you work with in New England. How did you get into the pitching coach business?
I think for me, it started when I was playing, just kind of being average as a pitcher and always having a little action
We're
here.
filming Barn Talk.
Good effort. Good effort. Barn talk right
No
here.
wing, we're filming Barn Talk.
Tell him to mix in a barrel. Good
Yeah.
place defensively. Need him to start swinging it.
I think for me, it started when I was playing. I just was always hungry for more information as a player, and just trying to learn and develop myself, and not knowing that it would lead to coaching down the line. I didn't even know when I was playing that I ever wanted to get into coaching. But it started down Rhode Island. I had one kid, about 3-4 years ago, while I was still playing, and just really enjoyed the process of helping him develop. And then it grew into, starting my business, I'd say the fall of 2019. And, just being in Rhode Island, there was really no one doing, anything from like a higher level pitching development standpoint. So got into it, had a lot of really good high school arms right away, realized that I had a passion for coaching, and just kind of took it and ran with it. And, went from my last 2 years of playing college baseball to kind of grow my business. And Scott reached out to me, and I think it was October of 2020, and been with NEB for a year and a half now, and it's been awesome. I mean, I think the culture is what makes this program special. The players involved, the people involved, and it's been great to kind of grow, myself throughout New England and just be around a lot of really good players. And that's the best part of it, is the connections you make and the people you help along the way. So
Yeah, it's an interesting point. You didn't know that you wanted to coach, right?
Yep.
So I found after I was done with my illustrious baseball career, I didn't really know the same thing. Didn't know if I really wanted to coach. Didn't really know what coaching was, right?
Yeah.
And it's for me, it's way more rewarding than
sure.
baseball playing the game ever was. It's
I
a different
agree.
experience.
Yeah.
I genuinely enjoy coaching the game of baseball.
100%.
Now, from your standpoint, do you consider yourself a coach, or do you consider yourself more of a player development guy? It's an interesting, because those are almost two different jobs nowadays.
Yeah.
Find yourself between a player development, and coaching. Those are two different things, which
Yeah.
I think you kind of realized a little bit this summer. It's not always about just how hard we can throw the baseball. There's so
100%.
much more to pitching.
Yeah.
There's so much more thought and planning that goes into just throwing the baseball 90 miles an hour. So, set things up and those kind of things. So how do you find yourself? First and foremost, what do you think you consider yourself more a player development guy or a coach, or are those, one and the same in your mind?
Yeah.
So this is kind of just. I know I ramble a little bit, but that was, give you something to work off of.
I think it's important though, because I think the industry as a whole is trying to find this middle ground between like player development and then actually making, developing skills that scale in the sense of like guys being able to perform at a high level come game time. And that was what I realized this summer, like being on the road with the Rays, playing just about every day, it's about performance. And I think like when I got into it, it was the COVID year. I had a lot of high school guys. Recruiting had gone to, you know, social media, and a lot of guys was like, hey, you know, if you had really good TrackMan or Rapsodo numbers, you were throwing 90 miles an hour, you know, there was probably a chance you were going to get an offer. So I think I kind of lost the sense of like what actually matters in terms of, you know, performance and, you know, being able to get outs on the field. And, you know, as the years have progressed, I think I've kind of shifted my mindset to, you know, like, okay, we need to be focused on, building, you know, the skills from the development side and developing good pitches, being able to throw hard, but also like starting to quantify and look at like, okay, what's going to make us successful in the game. And that's what I've really tried to do this offseason in particular, is be a lot more diligent in terms of like how we're structuring our bullpens, or, you know, what we're doing even in just our catch play, to get guys to like, you know, understand what matters. Like,
having a plan.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And I think that was for me, you know, and I'll be up front and frank, like I'm pretty tough on you, you know, from a point of, you know, where you show me a pitch on TrackMan and you say it's an elite pitch, and then that elite pitch is not over the strike zone,
100%.
or that ball ends up over the fence. Those aren't elite pitches. Like there's still, you maybe have to set up that elite pitch, and I think that's what kind of gets lost.
Yep, no doubt.
In pitching development, from my standpoint, is how hard can I throw it instead of learning how to pitch, how to make that pitch even better by setting it up with other pitches in certain situations. So it's got to be hard, because like you said, like social media is like, oh, I throw 90 miles an hour, and during that time frame, guys were being, you know, committed, because at the end of the day, that's a big, you know, it's a big variable, you know, not, you know, it's like, hey, that's something to get you, I can't find the right word, but like,
It gets you in the door.
It's a metric. It's a metric that's, oh my God, this guy, you know,
follow this guy.
we're going to follow this guy because he throws pretty hard. But I think what I have seen you do over the last, I'd just say 6 months, is really try to look at yourself in the mirror, and which is probably the biggest thing for coaches in general. Coach Ames and I do it all the time about, you know, the swing or whatever that we're teaching. You always got to look yourself in the mirror, because if you're not trying to get better, you're not second guessing what you're doing. Like you can't. There's not one right way to do it. So it's been good for us to watch you be able to grow, and you've taken a pretty unorthodox track to what you're doing. You know, you're 22 years old and you're jumping into pitching development, and you're working with guys for their careers, right? So not even like just a kid trying to move on and play college baseball. You're still working with high-level draft picks, or guys that are high-level prospects within their organization. And those, it's pretty cool to see like a guy put their faith into you as a 22-year-old kid, and I think it's a testament to your love of the game and what we're talking about being not only a coach but working on the development aspect of things. You know, you've you know, from what I've seen, you know, you've done an outstanding job with guys from high school all the way up to professional baseball. But I think Coach Abe's, one of his questions was, what do you do with what plan or approach do you take differently with kids that are maybe younger, 12 to 14? Do you just tell them, hey, get out of here? Or do you bring them in and say, you know, hey, maybe we'll work on some arm, making sure their bodies are moving the right way? Because that's a tough one, because I tend to, and I could be completely wrong on this, I think if a kid gets in too early, they become super mechanical, and you take all the athleticism out of their throwing motion. So, you know, I'm sure there's some people that are wondering when is it too early and when is the right time to kind of get into it, because you know, Leo Boucher was throwing 86 at 14 years old. Like that kid probably needs to be, you know, that kid probably needs a little more attention, because he could hurt himself if he really doesn't, you know, if he's not moving the right way. So you know, kind of the question, I kind of rambled there, but the question is like, when is the right time for a pitcher to try to, you know, or a kid throwing? It's not even a pitcher, because you're 12 to 14, they're still playing center field, they're still playing all other positions. But
well, I think one of the things, like with kids that age, it's different. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like every kid is at a different point, especially in that age bracket. You know, like you said, a kid like Leo is
Brookline,
well ahead.
Brookline.
Well ahead of the developmental curve in terms of his age. But then you have, you know, your average, you know, 14-year-old kid who, you know, still is growing and developing.
Is that Beckstein? Sorry.
Luke Beckstein.
Big double. Our apologies.
Shout out you, Luke. Shout out you.
NEB alum. Sorry, go ahead.
So I think you have, like, you know, most of the time your kid in that age bracket of 12 to 14 is still, you know, they're still developing. And for me, I usually take kids, you know, from 14 on, so 8th grade on, and I think that's usually a time where, you know, they need the most attention, because they're either in 8th grade or they're entering high school. now things start to get a little more rigorous. Now we're talking about, college recruiting is happening earlier and earlier, and I think kids need a better understanding of, like you said, not just from the pitching specific side, but just building out structure in your throwing on a daily basis. And I think that's where things get lost. And you even see it at the high school level. It's there's sometimes limited structure. And what I've tried to do with all my guys is give them a plan to be able to follow, outside of just pitching. Like, this is what you should be doing on a daily basis, whether it's from like a pre-throwing or during throwing, post-throwing, which I think is valuable.
It's probably one of the most important pieces that we see from our side is being able to, what are you doing after you're throwing? What are you doing to build up the throw as well? Which is,
it's not
again,
all about what you do on the mound.
Yes.
There's a lot of other work, especially when they get into high school and you have games and especially in high school, a lot of guys are probably playing a position too. So how are you, maintaining your health, your recovery, all that stuff, while you're still playing center field or playing shortstop the next day?
Well, and I think part of it too is just like looking at youth baseball as a whole. It's a lot of games with little practice time, especially in season. Like I look at it, I look at middle school kids and they're playing middle school, then they have games on the weekends. So it's a lot. And I think like workload management is super important, especially for these kids. And I think that's like part of the issue in youth baseball right now is you see kids, they're playing other positions, then they're pitching. They may be pitching multiple times a week, and you're talking about a 13, 14-year-old being on the schedule of a professional baseball player. Which, it's...
I'm gonna fly over.
We got a helicopter here.
Maybe we get that on the video.
Hovering over. They weren't supposed to fly until later. We hired them. That's just our crew.
They were gonna pick us up.
That's our crew. That was our
down.
entrance. I think it's the state police. They're probably looking for good people. That's the good people finder. I think they pick them up. They drop a ladder down. They climb up. They take them to lunch. Maybe in some, behind some bars. Maybe they take them to the bar. You never know what they're doing over there. But I guess one of my questions is, because you say that you're not going to work with them until they're 8th grade or whatever. Is you're just still ingraining tons of muscle memory all the way up to that point. And like, sometimes you find guys with some weird arm action and is there a time to step in when you see that, or you just kind of let it play out until they're older where they can, their bodies can be a little bit more efficient in the way they're moving?
I think like what I've usually seen is when kids are, in 8th grade or freshmen, like they're still pretty green in terms of the fact, like if there's a deficiency that exists, you can kind of get through that pretty quickly because, I even see it with our professional guys. It's like, when you start to really break it down, like guys have changes in their throw even over the course of a season that you don't even sometimes realize unless you're truly staying on top of it. So I think for kids, like from that 8th grade standpoint on, they're still at a point where you can still make, real changes to their throw in the sense if there's, mechanical issues that do exist. So, and like you said, I think it goes back to the fact too, it's like, you don't want kids thinking too much about this stuff to work. And I think there's a point where it's like you want them to just have fun and play baseball and just enjoy it. So
the good people finder's just kind of hovering over us.
Brookline too, a lot of good people.
It knows where the good people
they're going to have to meet with our agents if they really want us that bad. It's clear.
Barn TV, man.
Barn TV, man.
Gets picked up. I guess one of my last questions would be, being in coaching last couple of years, what have you seen as the biggest challenge for you? We've talked about your kind of unorthodox route. What has been, but a lot has obviously gone well. And that's an ode to you. But what has been the biggest challenge for you?
I think it's just learning. Every guy's different, and I think I was fortunate early on to work with higher level guys. So I was challenged as a coach pretty early on to be able to relate to, a guy who's been in the big leagues or played professionally and then have to pivot within a couple hours to a 15-year-old kid who has no experience. And I think that's like the hardest part, but like I wouldn't view hard in the negative light. I think it's the most rewarding part at times too, because you have to be able to relate to everyone. And I think there's so much cookie cutter that goes on in coaching. And I've tried as I've evolved as a coach and kind of changed my ideals and thought process on things. Like the one thing that's always been constant for me is trying to, figure out how to get to each player, because every player comes from a different demographic from a training standpoint or what they've been exposed to in the past. And I think it's just important to try and, relate to everyone. It's like it's building that relationship, because that's when you build a relationship, you give them context, you devise a plan for them, they're going to buy into it.
Yeah.
And that's for me. It's like every single year with new players, guys that have been with me for a while. It's like, how do I make this work? How do I make it run smoothly? And it's just really getting to know everyone. And it's hard, like, as my business has grown, you're dealing with a lot of players, and especially with NEB, we have a lot of guys, that come from all over, and they've all been exposed to different things, and they're all at different points in their career. And I think it's trying to relate to everyone, and also kind of adapt to how the industry is changing too. And I think it's sometimes hard to decipher what's good and versus what's bad, and that's why it's important to me to do my homework and research. And like you have points where it's like you look at yourself and you're like, okay, I could have done that differently. But I think that's what the art of coaching is being able to make changes and learn from mistakes. And I think that's the unique piece to it. Is like, and I've always prided myself on always learning and evolving. So.
Yeah, and I think some, coaching, you're going to learn experiences from going through experiences.
Yeah, 100%.
You're going to learn what not to do just as much as you're going to learn what to do. And that's, I think, part of the beauty of coaching. You get to kind of learn on the fly. Yep. And it's kind of sink or swim, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, obviously from a hitting standpoint for us, it's you can't teach everybody the same. Everybody can't move the same way, so they can't swing the same way. You find yourself, doing that in the same in pitching. Because some guys are flexibility is different, strengths different. They just have different. Maybe somebody's hips are tighter. Maybe they can't do certain things. Do you find yourself, trying not to?
We got a homer here.
We got a homer. That's a home run. That's Nate Wolf, NEB alum.
NEB guy.
Nate Wolf.
Live on
nice job, man. Nate Wolf.
Come on, Nate.
God, your mom's going nuts over in the parking lot. Love to see it.
If our director was better, he might have taken the camera.
Yeah, I don't know how we didn't move it to the ball that just landed 25 feet to my immediate left, Timothy. Okay.
Man,
that was electric.
We got a yard last at bat too.
Yeah,
It must hit some push-ups in between at bats.
No doubt, no doubt. What a time to be alive.
Man.
Wow, we got to end on that, right?
Yeah,
that was
we were
fantastic.
In the middle, but that's okay.
That's okay.
That's
yeah, we're moving on.
Barn
Home run.
Talk, episode 9. John DeRouin, Hops pitching. Follow him on all his accounts. Hops pitching.
Yes. Yep.
Finale, season 1, Barn Talk coming next week.
Wow.
This is the penultimate episode. Looking forward to the finale.
Yeah.
Looking forward to next week. Looking forward to the rest of today.
Great day.
Beautiful day.
No doubt.
Good stuff.
One love.
I don't know
Stay
about
blizzy.